Capcom's arcade legacy is legendary. We all know the heavy hitters, your Street Fighter 2, Final Fight, Ghosts and Goblins, 1942. The list goes on and on. But back in the golden age of arcades, you couldn't enter any seaside arcade without seeing a Capcom arcade classic. They filled the arcades and in turn, they emptied our pockets. And trust me, those paper rounds are our going back then. So those 10p's, we had to sweat for those bad boys. So we had to invest them into a very good game to earn our money. And I think we all know that Capcom were more than capable of doing just that, creating an absolutely amazing arcade game experience. And they lived more than up to our expectations. But what about the forgotten Capcom arcade games? You know, the weird ones, the games that didn't get home ported to our computers at the time, or they slipped under the radar entirely. In this video, I'm digging up 5 Capcom arcade games that you've probably never played. And if you have, then fair play to you. You, my friend, are a proper arcade historian. Oh, yes, indeed. So without further ado, let's dive into some obscure, underrated gems from Capcom's golden age. And you, let me know in the comments, how many of these games did you genuinely really recognise? Kicking off the list is one of Capcom's most overlooked early arcade games. Called the Speed Rumbler, and it was released back in 1986. This one's a wild mix of top-down driving and run-and-gun action. You play as a guy called Super Joe. Yes, that's Super Joe from Capcom fame, whose family has been kidnapped by a terrorist group. So, naturally, he jumps in a heavily armed car and starts mowing down everything in his way. Of course he does. I think, I suppose, a bit Spy Hunter meets Commando, but a bit more intense. You're constantly switching between blasting enemies in your car and hopping out on foot when things get a bit too hot. This adds to the frantic, almost survival-like twist to the gameplay. Capcom really tried to do something different here. This was before they hit it big with Street Fighter or Final Fight. And you can see them experiment with hybrid gameplay and sort of some bit of storytelling, even with these 8-bit visuals. But despite all that ambition, the Speed Rumbler, it was just a total sleeper. It got a lukewarm reception in arcades, probably because it was brutally hard and not as flashy as some of the other titles at that time. But looking back, it's one of those you had to be there kind of games, you know, and it was actually holds up surprisingly well if you give it a shot. So if you've never played the Speed Rumbler, do track it down, whether you play it through one of them Capcom Arcade Stadium collections or in MAME and emulation like I am now. It's raw, it's fast, and it's an important part of Capcom's early arcade DNA. Let me know in the comments, have you ever even heard of this one? Now here's a Capcom gem. There's not just one game, it's 3. And chances are, you probably only ever played one of them, you know. This is 3 Wonders. It was released in 1991. That was sort of in the middle of Capcom's arcade golden age. And on the surface of it, it's a very slick, side-scrolling called Midnight Wanderers. It's a bit like, I suppose, Ghouls and Ghosts meets like Mega Man. And the art, the pixel art, and it's rock solid platforming at its best. It's a really, really good little game. But dig deeper, and you've got this version here, also on the collection there, the 3 games. It's called Chariot. It's a fast-paced horizontal shooter with the same characters, but instead they're now flying and blasting enemies like something out of a dream, really. It plays a bit like Gradius mixed with Cotton. It's fast, it's fluid, plenty of power-ups as well. And then there was this, right, the wild card. Don't Pull. It's a weird little block-pushing puzzler that looks like it wandered out of a kid's cartoon. It's a lot slower paced, it's a strategic style game, and it's probably the one that no one actually remembers, unless they got got bored, of course, and they were waiting for continues or whatever. But hey, yeah, that's probably the only way you'll know it. So what makes Three Wonders special is that you've got all 3 games on a single arcade cab. This was rare at the time. It was like a mini Capcom collection before Capcom collections were even a thing, you know what I mean? But despite being technically impressive and visually gorgeous, right, Three Wonders, it just didn't get much love outside of arcades. It never saw a proper console release until years later, so most people never even realised it had more than one game tucked inside. So if you only ever knew Midnight Wanderers, go back, right, do, and give Chariot and Don't Pull a Spin. It's like uncovering bonus levels in real life. Which of the 3 is your favourite, or have you actually played any of them at all? Do let me know in the comments. Now, if you thought Capcom's beat-em-ups peaked with Final Fight or even Captain Commando, let me introduce you, right, to this. It's their weirdest and wildest brawler. It's very odd. Battle Circuit. It was released, quite a late release for an arcade game, 1997. This game, right, the best way to put it, it's just bonkers, but in a good way. You play as a gang of like super-powered bounty hunters in a futuristic comic book style world. You complete with a pink ostrich. There's like a ninja plant thing, and some sort of cybernetic robot with a TV for a face. Yeah, Capcom are not messing about with this one. Underneath all the madness though, it's actually one of the deepest beat-em-ups Capcom ever made. You can upgrade your characters, there's new attacks, and you can chain together like combos, and even do tag team moves. So if you're playing in cooperative mode, gameplay, like it's a bit like Final Fight really evolved. But then it went completely off the rails. There's even, right, an in-game shop between stages where you spend your bounty earnings and you can power up. Something most arcade beat-em-ups never really did. So very original on that front. So why haven't you heard of this? Well, Battle Circuit came way too late, really. I mean, consider 1997. We were past the prime of arcades, really, especially with side-scrolling brawlers, because there was this genre of game. There'd been so many, and to make things even worse, it never really got a home console release at the time. No SNES, no PlayStation, nothing. It was purely arcade and pretty rare at that. So that's why we probably never heard of it, and it's a bit of a hidden gem, really. Went under the radar. But luckily, you can now play it through Capcom's home collections. But back then, if your local arcade didn't have it, you missed out. And if you love cooperative brawlers, right, or just want to experience Capcom at their most unhinged and creative, then Battle Circuit is definitely a must play. Again, as always, let me know in the comments, have you seen this in the wild before? Because it's one I never did. Alright then, let's get weird. This is Exid X's. It was released by Capcom in '85, and it might just be a strange vertical shooter that you've never played. The thing is with this, it come out just after 1942 had been released, and let's be honest, that game needs absolutely no introduction. But instead of warplanes and like dogfights, Exid X's throws you into a sci-fi nightmare full of robotic insects, floating skulls and mutated bees, which are quite odd beasts in their own right. It's got this sort of eerie, almost post-apocalyptic vibe. It's like someone mashed up Xevious with a fever dream. And Xevious or Xevious, however you wish to pronounce, that was a good game. Gameplay wise, it's a classic virtual sort of vertical shmup. You're dodging the enemy fire, you're collecting the power-ups, and you blast through wave after wave of the most bizarre sort of enemies. But it does add a few twists too. It has score multipliers, there's invincibility pickups, which are very useful indeed, and a distinct sense of dread that's unusual for like an arcade shooter of this time. Capcom really leaned into the weirdness on this one. Even the level names and enemy types sound like something out of a lost sci-fi manga. And yet, for all its originality, right, Exid X's, it just never clicked with the mainstream apparently. It didn't help, I suppose, because if you look back to the time, 1942 was sort of the big hit, and this probably was just a little too odd and bizarre and didn't hold the same sort of you know, appeal that 1942 did. So it didn't see it get much distribution-wise, I don't believe. Anyway, if you like to shoot 'em ups and you like them strange, definitely strange, a bit challenging, just slightly unsettling, then XZX's is probably worth tracking down. I do believe, like anything, you can probably get it on some of them Capcom compilations that get released and things now. But as always, you can get MAME and emulate it and all that stuff. So there we go. XZX's. And now let's end this list with a true oddity. Avengers. I know what you're thinking, I thought exactly the same. Oh, that's, you know, Marvel, Thor, Iron Man, all that. No. Released in '86, this was, by Capcom. Avengers was Capcom's sort of early attempt at a beat-em-up. But instead of the side-scrolling that we come so used to, with later getting Final Fight and the rest of it, this one is top-down. It's a bit of a mess, really, but in a good way. It's not all bad. You walk the mean streets, you're either Ryu or Ko. And it's not the Ryu you're thinking. Yes, I know, I thought exactly the same. The mission is to rescue a kidnapped girl from a villain. I think the villain's called Geshita or something like that. And of course, you always have to rescue a girl in these old classic arcade games, don't we? Along the way, you'll be punching, spinning, nunchucking. And there's this wave and wave of these street thugs. Now, I do recognise these from a later Capcom arcade game release. But do you know which game that would be? Drop in the comments, a little bit of trivia for you. Anyway, the combat, right, it's primitive. You can spin like a human cyclone, best description. And most of the enemies just sort of stand about and take it. It's a bit clunky, it's unbalanced, to be honest, and the hit detection is questionable at times. But there's something charming about this, about how raw it all is, you know. There are power-ups hidden behind some walls, even bonus stages. So Capcom clearly had ideas, right, even back then, but the tech just wasn't quite there yet for them, I think. It's like the warm-up act for the beat-em-ups we'd fall in love with later. But back in the day, Avengers never made much noise, probably because it was quite overshadowed by better games. It was just a year or two later, but hey, looking back, it's a fascinating glimpse into Capcom's early experiments. So if you ever wanted to see what beat-em-ups looked like before Capcom got it right, do go give Avengers a try. It's tough, rough, weird, it's oddly fun in short bursts, but just don't go in expecting Iron Man and Thor and one of my favourites, Black Widow. Oh. Before we wrap things up, it's time for the channel and member shout out. You legends are the ones helping support the channel, and it really does mean a lot to me. Anyway, we're going to dig deep, pull one of your names, and let's see who Beer of the Week is going to. It is going to the one, the only, Sean Cosgrove. Thank you for everything. Let's grab your pint. Let's see what you got for you, eh? So, Sean, we've got a Hobgoblin Ruby beer. Now, I'll be absolutely honest, I've had the Hobgoblin recently, but I've never had the Ruby beer. This is 4.5%. It's a British beer, and even a Hobgoblin glass to go with it. Let's pour it up. It describes itself as I think most British beers always describe themselves as caramel flavours, which is usually always, I find, most bizarre, because I don't very rarely taste caramel in a beer. It says there's figs and all sorts of nonsense going on. Full-bodied English figs, raisins, dates. All the things I don't like. But I like beer. It's quite a nice dark colour. I suppose it has got a very, very, tinge of red maybe, or ruby, should we say. Anyway, Sean, thank you. And all channel members, thank you. Chipped it down myself. Very, very pleasant. Hobgoblin Ruby. I'll be having you again. So thanks, Sean, for being a top tier member, and to all you other amazing members. Your support helps me keep creating all the extra content that you're seeing, the competition entries you're getting, the bonuses and stuff. So thank you very much for your support. Oh yes. But hey, there's more. A massive thanks as well to everybody who likes, subscribes, comments. Honestly, that is just as important, and it keeps this community absolutely buzzing. If you're enjoying the content and want even more, then of course you can hit the join button below and see what's going on with the extra content and everything else. But you know what? I appreciate each and every one of you, and the videos are still dropping twice weekly. But there's just something a little extra for those that want it. Anyway, let's summarise this. So there you go. 5 Capcom arcade games that just didn't make the usual top 10 list that we see, but absolutely do deserve a second look. Whether it's the chaotic brilliance of Battle Circuit, the creativity of 3 Wonders, or the old school weirdness that was XZX's. Anyway, Capcom's back catalogue is packed with hidden gems. They just show how experimental Capcom were. Well before the big franchises sort of come in and took over and home systems took off and everything else. So do let me know in the comments, how many of these have you actually played? And be honest, and did I miss any others that deserve some love? Drop them in the comments. Maybe we need a part 2 to this. Drop your comments, drop your suggestions, and maybe we'll do it, okay? We'll revisit this. And if you enjoyed this, dive into the dusty corners of arcade history, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and check out the rest of the retro goodness here on the channel, including my CX challenges, my spin to wins, of course, which you can win, and my weekend vlogs, which of course are dropped every Tuesday following that weekend. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to catch you all on the next one. Cheers.